some questions. Let's see. Do you ever recognize anybody that you knew on your 20 and back? Do you ever go down the street and go, holy crap, I know that person?
No. Okay, so not down the street. No, definitely not.
Okay.
I have recognized, and well, here's the thing is also one of the technologies that when they put you back, there's a host of different things to make you remember, to blank your memory. There's not just one pill they give you and it makes those memories go away. They have a host of, they have, half a dozen or a dozen different methods of technology that make you forget. They have one, for instance, for names and numbers. Like all you forget, they use this technology on your mind control. And what it does is it wipes all the names of the people you knew. They have another one that does just the faces. So when I remember, literally, when I remember my girlfriend, her face is a blurry. I could see her body. I could see every in my mind's eye when I remember those people that I knew. My captain, I knew him very well. I had a few girlfriends, through over the course of time. I wasn't,
Sure.
But like through the course of years, I had people that I loved, and I can't remember their faces. I can remember their eyes sometimes. I can remember details. I can always remember their bodies perfectly. I can remember exactly how they were built and everything, because there was a technology that locally deleted faces. So when I see people that kind of I get asked that quite a bit. Do you remember me? People contact me on Facebook. What's funny about that is they'll contact me on Facebook and they'll say, do you remember me? And I'll go look at their profile and they got like 2 pictures of them. I'm like, there's a picture of you standing on a hill. How can I know if I remember you or not? Like if it was my mom, I wouldn't recognize her. I need more info than that. So
actually what it is face unrecognition technology.
Yes, exactly. It makes a blur. It makes like a gray blur in the memory. But that being said, I have met probably a dozen, maybe a little less than a dozen people that I met up there. There was somebody that I met up there that I knew, and I found them and I began to tell them everything. And what happened was a very negative result. And it was somebody that did not want to remember. So the other person that they were up there did not want to remember what happened. Like when they were going back, they said, good, please erase my memory. I don't want to remember any of this. So that was a condition. And then when I began to do that, when the memories begin to surface, it's very painful. Like you said, you touched on that earlier, when people get, when you start to remember, it's one thing to remember looking out the window at a beautiful star field. It's another thing to remember putting someone to death. And so when these memories surface and you remember being somebody that you are not in this lifetime, that you base your entire psyche on your life that you are now. And then you begin to remember living a life that has nothing that doesn't jive with it at all. It's a very, very terrifying thing. And so that person I did that to, I learned very quickly not to ever do that again, because it's not something that's fair to do. It's for me to force what I know on somebody is not fair for them. Somebody has to ask for the information. Somebody has to ask for it, because it's just, people are going to learn at their own pace, remember at their own pace, or forget for their own reasons. And they, it's a sovereignty issue. They have every right to forget. You have every right to forget bad things. You do. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not fair to make somebody remember something horrible. Even if it is ultimately the right thing to do in the long run, it's up to them, and it's not up to me to do that. So there are people that I know that I knew that don't know. I know 2 people in my life that I knew that I know were taken and went through the same kind of stuff that I did, that I knew there. And I know them now, and I speak to them, and I've dropped little breadcrumb hints, but they don't know. They don't see my interviews. They don't know that. They know me in my life, people I went to school with. And I won't tell them either, because they need to learn it. It's something they need to do on their own. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely. And I think that's another one of your superpowers is your integrity, Tony. You've got super duper integrity. I really appreciate that. That's a very knightly quality. I really appreciate that.
I heard you say in one interview that you wish you could not remember. You wish that if you had your choice, you'd forget.
I may have felt that way. People ask me all the time, like, they didn't air my show. I went and filmed a George Norrie show, and I sat down with George, and he goes, he's like, do you feel that it was negative what happened to you? And I said, well, yeah. My life I would have been much better off. I would have solved a lot of problems. I would have been in life, I would have been, we'd probably be having this interview in my fancy basement in my giant house. You get what I'm saying? Like my life would have had a different course if this didn't happen. He said, it ruined your life, didn't it? And I don't think that it ruined my life. It was just part of my life. I don't think you ruin a life. I don't think you ruin a life. I don't think so. I think that you live your life. And
you didn't air your interview?
I don't think he aired it. I don't know. But I did. I went there and filmed the George Norrie show. But
so what you're saying is it alters your life.
It's my life. It's your life. Okay, so bad things happen to people, and it's your life. It's life. Good things happen too. You can't have a series of all good things happen. You get what I'm saying? Like that's not living. And so that was what happened to me. Some people have car accidents, and some people lose an eye or break a leg. Or, some people have bad things happen to them. Different things happen to them, and it doesn't ruin your life. It's your life. It is your life. That is your life.
Laura Lee talks about us being double agents. You want to talk about that? That we come here to get the data on the slave system to free all of humanity. And it's your purpose. You came in and you're achieving your purpose. And yeah, you were a slave for 20 years. And there are billions of slaves on this planet right now, and people wearing masks and willingly. I mean, we got to deal with this. And it takes a courageous being who's willing to pay the price to blow the whistle on all this. This could create waves of change that changed humanity forever if we knew we were being harvested and used in this way. And it's coming out. It's going to change. It's going to change everything.
I would very much like that to happen. I feel like, like I said, I don't feel like that. I don't feel that I'm a researcher. I don't feel that I'm some kind of healer or anything like that. I don't feel that I feel that I'm merely a witness. And I think that, these programs, and even not just us here, not just the earth, like the people that are using these programs for their own gains. I think it's rampant throughout the cosmos, the same technique. And I think that they're using the ability to say, they're using the unmoral justification. They're using something unmoral and packaging it like it's moral, justification by saying, well, you're not going to remember, so it's not going to matter. If we can hurt you right now because you're not going to remember it anyway, so it's not going to matter. And I'm a witness to that. And I think that out of speaking to people and doing all this, the very greatest thing that I've said, the very greatest thing I've said is that I do remember. I do remember you doing this. I do remember this. All your technology in the world that you legally justify it with, that and I'm talking about law between planets. You know what I mean? They have a law. It's okay as long as they don't remember it. It's kind of like we do to animals. Like you can take animals and, take them out of the wild. As long as you put them back and they don't know what happened, and they can clear like a non-interference rule. Mm-hmm. They have a rule like that. And they say, as long as the people don't remember, then you can take them and do whatever you want from any old indigenous planet of this level of people of intelligence. And my life, if there's anything that I've said that's very important, the only thing I've said is that I do remember. I remember it. And I didn't go through nobody gave me a pill to remember it. I just remember it. And so everything that they morally justify that they did to me because I wasn't going to remember it is bullshit, because I do remember it. You know what I mean? It's BS. So these are galactic governments, galactic civilizations that aren't that very smart, because I'm just a person I'm a woodworker in Michigan, and I remember, their law is BS, totally wrong. So that, I think that's the moral of my story. Personally, I'd like to make that known to them. That's what I'm doing, is I'm letting them know. They don't even have a record of me. They don't even have a record of me up there, and that's fine. But they're gonna be, the things I've already said have already proven what I've went through. There's a miles of proof from things that I've said that have checked out. So, and they know it.
So, Tony, I feel like that what Sienna said, this is part of your mission, and you've got such a good handle on it, and you've got such a good outlook on it and perception of it all. And at this point, when you've remembered everything, you're standing tall as that warrior and saying, hey, dork heads, I remember. And you you think you're going in the guise of the law. Well, you're not. And it's like a whistleblower. It's like, and I'm telling people about it, and more people are going to wake up that you did this to. And guess what? It's like, screw you, loser. We're not putting up with this stuff. And that's what I see you as, is this very impeccable warrior that's at the front of the lines, and you went through all this crap, as a double agent, and now you're going, the buck stops here. I remember, you lose. I remember, and I'm telling people, and more people are waking up.
And also, look at him. I mean, he's gorgeous. He's a human. He's wonderful. He has a family. I don't know what your life is like, but you survived it. You are also modeling that, guess what? We can survive it. Yeah.
Yes. And not just survive, but Tony is thriving. It's like he's not letting any of that crap ruin his earth life. It's like, yeah, you thought I was a throwaway. Well, guess what? I was a double agent, and you're the one that's screwed. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, we need more Tonys to come online.
That's right. I need more of you.
I'd like to say something about my recount. So for me, it doesn't happen very often, but every now and then something that I said long ago happens to check out. Like something in the very beginning that I said in interviews in the past. I say, I'll let a fact out, or I'll go check something out. And like, there's a lot in Peru that I've said that some people are going and checking out, and that's worked out. And usually it's not earth shattering, but there's always the details that I remember that check out. They've all checked out. Nothing is not checked out. But recently, NASA confirmed that. So I just want to say this, because for me, I had one day of just feeling like like I won the championship. Like it was such a huge victory to me. I jumped up and down, and I went to work, and it's like, I can't talk to people about it in my life, but I just jumped up and down, and I felt like I had won like a great victory, like a huge source of victory. And what it was that NASA confirmed what I said all along about the crater on Ceres, the Okator crater. There are the white spots there, that there is a material laying inside the crater that make these huge white spots. And I said, those are salt. There's a geyser there. We flew over it, and it was right around like 1997, 1998. We flew over it, and there was a geyser, and it shot water up about 10 kilometers into, off the surface. And then the water evaporated, and the salt and the leftover chemical, it was like magnesium and salt, like Epsom salt, snowed back down. And it was beautiful because it snowed in different speeds. Like it would go up, and then these were faster, and then these would come slower down. It was gorgeous. And so that's what I said in the very beginning, my very first interviews. And so I'm not going to say names, but one of the researchers that, researchers hold you to the fire. They'll be nice to your face, but say, that doesn't check out. I need more than that. They hold you to the fire because they're researchers, they're real. And it was nice. I had a researcher came and say, you know what, you were right all along.
Wow.
So that for me to hear that in my perspective, for somebody to say, you were right, it checks out. Everything you said, you know, if you were right, and if I'm right about one thing, that means I'm right about many. And so to hear that actually from somebody on a professional level, somebody that's very professional level, to say everything you said checked out about that. You know, NASA confirmed what you said. And I said it before the Dawn probe got there. It's documented. It's in documents. It's in my timeline. It's in a story that I wrote back then, and it's in like 3 interviews that I did that are on YouTube. So I said that back in 2016, and right when the Dawn probe was getting close, and NASA checked it out, and they just released the data a month ago.
Yes. Did you have a party?
Oh, I found it too. You know, like I said, it was early in the morning when I was getting ready. I was having my coffee, and I was out the door to work, and I read it, and I was driving down the road just like, yes, you know, like I was the whole drive to work. I was just on cloud 9. I was just on top of the world. It was a very emotional feeling of victory, like I'd won something. So it was nice.
Well, and what confirmation of, if that's correct and accurate and all the other things are accurate, then it's most likely that everything else is accurate, or at least 95% is accurate.
I'm as accurate about what I remember as you are about remembering things 20 years ago. You know, you get what I mean?
Exactly.
Like as accurate as you can remember your birthday or your party or your friend's party or buying a car. You know, all those details of it, your memories are not going to be super accurate. You're not going to remember the VIN number of your car, or, you know what I mean, many details, but you're going to remember it. And that's about the accuracy of my memories as well. And what's funny is that over time, you know, the more you think about it, like if I just pick something, you know, let's just say your first car you bought. Mm-hmm. Right? You can get that memory now, but you can't remember that day or that week or whatever. Now, if you thought about it for the next month, every day, if you remembered that, when you could remember that week and that month before the car, or what happened after, you get what I mean? Like you can remember what happened to it. Those memories will come to you over time. And that's what it's like for me. So in the beginning, I remembered the bullet points and the heavy stuff. And over time, I'm remembering more of the details because it's just in the front of my mind.
Yeah, I feel like you've got a really good handle on it. There's still details, like you said, but you're amazingly accurate in your memory. I'm just like astounded. But that's one of your superpowers. So I guess I'm not that astounded, because that's your superpower.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. And like I said, you know, a lot of people, I've had many people say, they remember enough to convince themselves that they were there. And that's a big step. Because the first thing, you know, most people have a weird memory of it, some kind of ET contact, and then that's it. And so they go, whatever, it's not enough to go by, to pursue it or to go and speak to anybody about it. But a lot of people have memory enough to contact somebody and say, look, I remember this stuff. And they can't remember more. They just can't remember more. And, you know, which is how the technology works, how it works. And I feel bad for them, because a lot of people want to remember. I also found that most people that are in that state of suppressed memory, when they had somebody that they weren't in love with, can have more memory. They have more memories. I think that need to remember that person, that was what happened in my case, as well as I was madly in love with somebody the day I left. And so I didn't want to forget. You know, during that process, that was what I was thinking about. I did not want to forget, and I think that's what, you know, was a huge factor in what.
Well, your determination and real authentic love, you know, that's another thing where love conquers all. It's like your love for this person is what helped you where you're at today. Mm-hmm. So that's like phenomenal. That's awesome. Do you have any more questions, Sienna?
Well, I just wanted to speak to that, because in the work what we've been doing, we certainly create a love field and bring in guidance and the greater being of the person. And in that field of love and acceptance and gentleness and compassion and also connection, they do start to remember. And also the way you hold it of not having to really relive it with every detail of the horror and the pain like that is so. And opening also, I wanted to mention that we do a lot of protocols removing alien implants and cords and forced agreements and chakras and kundalini and ego implants and super ego implants and reptilian soul overlays. So there's that we're finding, and I want to see if you're aware of any of this or you saw any of these places, because there's massive amount of we're being taken over by artificial intelligence if we don't wake up to this. And they're co-opting the operating system with a very sophisticated and complex system where it's not our mind anymore. It's their mind. It's not our impulses. It's their impulses. So the first thing we do is help people with the tools and the techniques, the rocks and the eggs and many things, to remove all of that so they can get back to their core essence. And then start retrieving parts of them, the different altars and the different realities where they've been harvested and where they're trapped. And so it is, in a way, a process of not being in love, but the love field and the support in that way, and clearing all the stuff out of people that is taking them over. Then the memories also come back, because I work with people that, a few months ago, they thought, it's crazy to even mention that, well, I think you're kind of an MK Ultra. If you want to do a little time regression, we might be able to pull your altars back, and their eyes are rolling like, oh, but something in them's going, like something knows. And by the time we get them to the place where they start doing those regressions, they're remembering, aren't they, Laura Lee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's easy and it's fun and it's not. This method that she's talking about is, it's not like anything else. So you're sitting up on your timeline. Your higher self goes down, picks up the shattered pieces of whatever happened, and you're watching, and you're seeing the chronological order of what happened. Your higher self picks up the pieces, cleans them off, and then reinstalls them. And then you integrate those back, and it's like you just start changing. Your whole being changes. And it's not traumatic. It's fun. So
I did a number of those, and I've been working for the last year in this area where I was mainly doing shadow work before, but it's all integrating. But when I did, I stayed with Laura Lee a year ago, and she took me through a number of them, and I was, parts of my DNA, like I said, were being used like as wombs and to birth all of this AI software. When I pulled all that, cleaned that, I got it back, like in the next few days, I would wake up, and it wasn't like I forgot who I was, but there was more of me. It's really hard to explain. There was more of my authenticity back, more power, more health. And it felt wonderful, but I would look around and go, like, I'd never been in the room I was in before, even though I was in my house, because this part of me had never been in the room before. It's really quite a fascinating, and I mean, it's a wonderful process, because it stabilizes, if that quantum plasma thing that one of you just mentioned, if it gets so drained and shattered and scattered and traumatized, then we have less quanta. So the system isn't working right. But when we get it back, everything starts working better. We get younger, we get happier, we're able to, our hormones are working better, our ability to intend and create our reality. I mean, it's like we're back, our power is back, our sovereign, authentic power, the superpower we have to have a will. can create realities. I mean, it's all scattered and shattered and traumatized. You can't do that. So this is a fundamental process, and people have to at least know that this is happening to them, or else they wouldn't even think in a million years of engaging in the process of this kind of soul reclamation. I mean, how many people think, a part of them is in Sirius, being tortured or whatever? It's the most preposterous thing. And yet people like you, I don't know that there are any people like you, but you are saying it's happening. And you are also, I feel one of his superpowers is his memory is seeding the awakening of other memories. And that's why we're, yeah.
Absolutely. That is absolutely one of your superpowers, is helping to wake, right, like you said, seeding it. It's like throwing these life rings of truth out that people can grab onto and then come back to themselves.
A lot of the reason that people don't remember is they don't even know it's possible that it could have happened. And I was in denial of it too, until I learned about the time travel, the mechanics of how they could time travel and put you back immediately. I always had the memories, but I just brushed them off. Like, when could that have happened? I just couldn't rationalize the timing of it, that great deal of time. The other thing I'd like to touch on is about that the MK Ultra, a lot of that is based on accessing a lower part of your brain, your reptile brain, your survival, sexuality. You know what I mean? And they access that, and then they program that because it's a easier to access part of your brain. So that's where a lot of the programming takes place. So a lot of people, once they get flashbacks into that program, the trauma-based programming, it accesses that part of the brain as well, which is powerful and hard to deal with. And it's like a radio. Your brain. I think your whole body is like a stack of 7 or 8 radios, all on a different frequency. And some people have 2 frequencies and they get along, and they're friends. They have 2 or 3 frequencies that are but close to the same, and they get along great and they see eye to eye. And some people have no frequencies in tandem with each other, and they can't understand each other. And some people that are soulmates, they have every single station on all 7 radios, the exact same station. And so they get along. It's your entire body and soul is connected. And I think the MK Ultra stuff screws up and creates a new radio station on 1 or 2 of them. And so that's what they access that, and then you kind of turn into the robot. And so when you start accessing and healing that, people can fringe into those, you know what I mean? Like, back to that radio station that really doesn't exist. That's an artificial radio station. That's what the compartment is. I'm using an analogy, but that's basically what it is.
It's articulate. You're very articulate with this, and it's so very understandable. Yeah.
When you get to that, it also accesses that pain. The pain is there. And so once you can get back to that and realize that station really doesn't exist, that you have these radio stations, and they screwed you up and put you over here into this one. And so they could access it when, you know what I mean? You believe that the everything belongs over there like that this is your reality, when really your reality is here, and this is good. This is you know what I mean? This is your, like you said, your ability to manifest. You'll be able to manifest your own consciousness, your own stuff. These frequencies here. Yes. And what they did was they moved the whole thing over here to these frequencies where you're a victim, or you know what I'm saying? You have no rights. You're suffering. And so a lot of that's the kink that I kind of was in my life. It wasn't until I got the memories back when I went, wait a minute, that's over here. I don't need that anymore. And I kind of slowly got, and I just, like you said, I experienced it more organically than going to somebody for help. But I think that's what it is. And a lot of people don't realize that that's what's going on. And I think that, like, and I hate to, I don't want to turn this into something inappropriate, but I think that, like I said, the stack of radios, imagine there's, you have one on a dial of 100 here. That's what sexuality is brought into it. That's why the elites are into the sexuality as much as they are, because sex is a way of putting all the stations on just for a very short time, biologically putting everything on the same radio station. So when you have sex with somebody, for a few minutes after that, you are on the same wavelength with them. And some people that are incompatible, 5 minutes later, you're not on the wavelength anymore. You only have it during that time. Somebody you're compatible with, it stays longer and longer. And then people that are married over 10, 20 years, after a while, they just naturally learn, they stay on those radio stations. They can finish each other's sentences. They can hear each other's thoughts because they've been together so many times sexually that when the stations go out, when they go to a baseline, and when they go to a different station, they go to the same ones because they're married. And over time, that's what happens. So you align yourself to your partner, and that's why that happens. So I think that's why the elites are doing, is because the young kids, when they're doing the pedophilia, the young kids are youthful and have access. Their radio station set is over here, way more of the manifestation stuff. So they're doing that sexually. They're getting that baseline, and they're cheating to get into these spectrum. And I think that's what the elites are doing. I mean,
exactly.
To put it in that way.
Yes, little cheaters, little cheater assholes.
Does that make sense? I mean, I hope I wasn't confusing anything.
That is very well articulated. And yeah, it's like, so they steal it. Like they get these kids and they steal their frequencies because your early years, your first 10 years or so are you're formative of your entire life. The tone is set for where you're going to go in your life. It's very formative. And that's because your mind has more access to, the universe. You have a clear, reception of the universe. You have a clearer reception. And then once you pick your way, once your life begins to take shape and you get into an adult, then you get into the more physical, more of the 3D aspects of life. That's what an adulthood is. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's another morsel of awareness, and the way you said that was really good. I think a lot of people can understand that. I really appreciate that analogy.
Yeah.
I think I'm done interrogating. All my interrogation questions have been answered. What about you, Sienna?
Oh, it just feels like we just got in started, but this is it's also very rich, and we touched on some really deep things. My main intention in holding this space is just to hang out with you and have a good time. But other than that, just to let people really get beyond the fear and listen and entertain this possibility and know that this can be resolved as the veil is lifting and people are going to sense, wait, that's me. But the like you said, the reptilian brain, the trauma, it's so terrifying that most of us' knee-jerk reaction will run anywhere to avoid facing this. And I get, that's so sad because some of our best and brightest, super-powered, super dedicated, uncorrupted heart beings, the people we need now to envision the new, to show up outside the madness, to not be mind-controlled slave, to not be being absorbed into the hive mind in total unconsciousness. We need these people, and a lot of them are in these programs, terrified and scattered and shattered. So I think this was a great talk in that regard. I mean, you are just a hero in my book. I've listened to some of your shows about just I love those two guys that you talked to, because there's like 2-3 hours, and they really somehow were a great mix for you. They got you to really open up and talk about the moment by moment slavedom that you endured. This was not fun. This was, 20 years of doing hard labor for, aliens and horrible, inhuman. It blows my mind, Tony, because I feel your heart is still very intact. I don't know what you did to not just remember, but to keep your humanity through that much torture. I guess that would be my last questions. How'd you do that?
How did you keep your heart from getting tainted?
Well, I don't know if it's not.
Well, I'm sure it is to some extent, but you sure have kept a lot of it alive. I mean, nobody could not be tainted. That's impossible.
So I think that it like a muscle, like yeah, I feel like I'm on a spot. I feel like there's a bunch of people staring at me now, but
Oh no, I'm sorry.
no, I mean like a muscle, coping with so what happened was number one, I was in a situation where I was not entirely powerless, but powerless over my situation.
Totally.
And that is something that I'm learning today. I'm learning like people are spurring me on. Like I need to write a book and I need to do things. And when I do things, I need to charge money. I need to have self-respect for my time. You know what I'm saying? Like people are like bugging me like that, like do it. And I'm like, I've shut down because I didn't have that for all those years. I didn't have any kind of self-preservation because it was taken care of for me. You get what I'm saying? Like that mentality of it. Like even in my day-to-day life, my personal life, I'd rather let somebody else take over everything and not manage those things that are important because I was a slave for so long that everything was taken care of for me. But the emotional part of it was that, on top of the laborious end of it was the degradation of it. And what I don't talk about a lot was that, in my day-to-day life, I was degraded very often. And so much that I avoided public spaces because I would avoid places because I was certain to have somebody there say something degrading to me. And so like a muscle, that's something that on me in my whole life has been, where other people would speak up, I don't, because it's nothing to me. You know what I mean? You could sit and call me names all the time now because it doesn't bother me. And like in high school, like I was a bully magnet. When I would get bullies, don't fight you on the first day. They pick on you and then they pick on you harder. They test you to make sure that you're not going to fight back and then they want to fight you. That's what a bully is. And so people would test me and I just never said anything. It's just, I had a very, very thick skin as far as being picked on. So I was a bully magnet. I got in tons of fights with bullies because I would finally stick up for myself and get in a fight about it. But because I couldn't fight back, I was always continually bullied and degraded for those years on Ceres Colony, especially. And so I just had when you say, how'd your heart get intact? It's because I was used to being, I've had people say, you're very humble with all this. I'm like, well, I didn't really have a choice. I was used to being humble and I had to find ways to cope, to keep myself intact. Every day I would go home and I had to find ways to cope with it. You know what I mean? Being a slave, I was the slave on the bus, on the train, and so that is how I kept intact. It was like a shell that formed around me.
Well, that, and I would also say it's your inner warrior night that is kept it intact. It's like, yes, that happened and that's a contributor, but I just think it's who you are. It's what you are. I think you're way more than what you think you are. And that's what I think.
Who could survive that without being bitter or angry or crazy or fly out of control or being alcoholic?
Exactly.
I mean, come on. That is a superpower right there.
That's right.
Well, it was a bumpy ride and it was a long time ago. So, I mean, the person I am now, I've coped with the wake of it all, the aftermath, I coped over time. It happened a very long time. I was 10, so 38 years ago. And I've had that much time to cope with it and kind of get over it. So I'll never be over all of it. I'll never be over it.
There's no way. Well, I mean, maybe you will be, but you aren't yet. But there's, from a psychological perspective, it's really fascinating that somebody, because, I had a degree in psychology and I've been down the psychology path. I mean, I threw all that in the garbage can a long time ago. But because you're always looking, well, why is he so insecure? You know, why can't he believe in himself? Why can't he take care of himself? Why, you know, they're always going to look to childhood and then maybe, you know, past lives or something. But they're not going to look that, well, no, he was tortured as a slave off world for 20 years. And you don't know, and that as you have come to terms with that, to some extent, you have healed. That's a pretty out there concept, but I think it's true for a lot of people because I've been like on a mission, you can surface unconscious material and memory and trauma and core beliefs and core wounds. And there's a lot to that, but this is why I've been loving working with Laura Lee. They're keys that can only be discovered if you really look into the weird shit. I mean, because that's where the answer is.
That's
and of
right.
course, they program us to think, oh, it would never be there. I mean, that's impossible. So that people are eternally trapped because they can't even fathom where they're trapped.
Right.
You are bringing great illumination to that. And I know that there are a lot of people, there are people like that are just going to go, forget it, nut job, ain't going there. But there are going to be a lot of people that, like I said, that seed, it's some get under their skin and go, I gotta do something here, because they're going to be catalyzed, because the truth frequency it's pretty dark out there right now, but the truth frequency has been rising and it is rising, and people want their sovereignty. And so if somebody can model something so crazy as what you're talking about, by the way we've been mind controlled to think,
it's far from the norm.
A massive bridge out of imprisonment. So in a way, you went into imprisonment to become a bridge out of imprisonment for whoever is open to receiving this information, which is an incredible thing, really. So thank you.
Yeah,
Amazing.
thank you.
Really,
thank you. I mean, it was not my, I never set out to do this. It just kind of, one thing led to another, and here I am. And so, it turned into public information with my name, and so I just kind of went with it. I'm kind of not afraid of what happens.
Excellent. See, that's the key. You're not afraid. It's like all this crap that happened to you toughened you up, and now you're not afraid. It's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Do what you think you want to do. Whatever. I'll just get out of it. I'll remember. Yeah, whatever.
I don't know about that, but there comes a time, I think it's a very important thing to be said too, that there comes a time when you have to realize that fear really doesn't have a constructive purpose. Like I could be afraid. There's plenty I could be afraid of, but what is it going to do for me? And really it's not a constructive thing.
Exactly.
So I'm just not afraid, just whatever, man. Let's take it to a current event. Some people are petrified of people nowadays because they're going to get this virus. And I'm to the point where, the fear is one thing. You can take your steps that are necessary and take a distance and wear a mask. And personally, you don't have to wear a mask. You can just shut up around people. It's, what I mean? It's the same thing. If everybody's silent and then there's nobody spitting the stuff on you, you don't need the mask. You can just shut up. But some people are overly afraid. That's what they're, their entire experience because of this is just fear. And you can't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? Some people are, it's getting more fear than it deserves. And it's not constructive. It's one thing to be constructive with your fear. It's another thing to just be scared of somebody else is in the room. Oh my God. Some people are, and I've seen people that there are different levels. Most people are kind of over it by now, but there are some people that are just taking it way too far. And it's sad to say, because fear is it's a giant boat anchor. You know what I mean? If you're trying to take flight, fear is a gigantic anvil that you're tied to, and you're not going to fly anywhere. And that's the first thing that I guess that's the first lesson that I learned with all of this. If I was going to be afraid to talk about it, then I was going to go nowhere. And so I just let go of the fear. And I think I would encourage everybody, and you're part of the universe, whatever you're doing, whatever you're afraid of, to just weigh out, is that fear being constructive? Because if it's not, you need to let go of it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do to anything in any circumstance.
So crazy. It's like we're afraid that this thing is going to kill us. So we're okay with living like the zombie apocalypse, living a living death with no contact, no communication, locked down in our rooms, our world totally destroyed. We're saying yes to a living death because we're afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one little thing to say here about this. I was working with one of my indigo buddies that does weird shit with me. And what we discovered is that the real coronavirus, corona means crown. And we saw this crown thing on people's heads that was putting these ideas in and controlling them. So it's a mind control virus with it's some kind of ET technology. I have no idea what it was, but we were seeing this etheric crown that was controlling people, and the ones that it can't control are the ones like Tony and the people that go, I'm not scared. You can't scare me. It's like they can't scare you if you're not afraid, right? Mm-hmm. And they can't control you. And if you, instead of going with the crazy and getting all flipped out about everything, if you come back, just center and go, okay, I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to unplug from that, and I'm going to go feed my chickens or something. and they can't get you. It's a will to unplug that is going to keep you out of their system. So that's just my perception on it all.
Yeah, and that's the work that we do, and that's what you've done, really. That's what you've done yourself with your own intuitive, you've just done it. And if people could get that they are, invincible. I mean, yeah. They have so mind controlled us to think we are, these poor, disempowered, pathetic losers that are horrible and stupid. We need governments and false gods and everything, and because we are just pathetic. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. They are harvesting us because we have everything that's fueling them. I mean, I had this feeling that if all of those people that have been harvested and they're using us to see their worlds and what if all that was done? They don't have what it takes to keep all of that crap going. And we're just doing it because we're scared. We're so scared, and we don't believe in ourselves, and we don't know what's going on. And so it would have been so easy to manipulate.
Right, and they only take the ones that have something to offer. They don't abduct people that have nothing, they don't. So if you've been abducted, there's something that you got that they want. And of course they steal it. They don't come and say, hey, you've got something, can I pay you? And we'll do this good trade. No, I don't do that. They go, oh, you got something I want, we'll abduct you, we'll wipe your memory out, and it's all okay because we wipe your memory out, so we can do whatever the hell we want with you, and it's all good. We're under the law.
Mm-hmm. You're not going to remember it. You're not going to remember it. I mean, if it was something that everybody had access to, it would run rampant. People would, there's almost no way to use it correctly. There's almost no way to use that ability in a good way.
Exactly. Because, and we know that this technology always gets in the wrong hands, right? If there was a use for it somewhere, that might be good, but we've got so many assholes out there that they're always going to use it and abuse it for their purposes. So it's, I'm seeing a big change though that's coming up, and all the assholes that thought they were in control and they could do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, because they're the top level assholes, that's coming down. That's going away. And I think on some level they know it, but they're not going to give up without a fight, because things are shifting, and I'm seeing it's like the whole cosmos is shifting, and it's shifting in our favor, not theirs. And so we're just kind of sitting back waiting, eating our popcorn and drinking root beer and watching how it plays out, because it's going to be a big change in the next few months. And my thing is just watch it and pull out of fear and see what happens and get back into be a Tony. If everybody can be a Tony and go in and just stand up and go, okay, no, you're not doing that to me. I'm going to remember. So screw you losers.
Yeah.
He's my hero. Okay, I'm done.
Because that helps get out of all the mind control. Like he said, if all these frequencies are the ones that diminish you, degrade you, shut you down, and you're listening to them all the time, then that's what you're going to hear. But what Laura Lee's saying, you disengage from it all. You learn, it's a learning curve. You learn how to disengage with that. And you start listening to the organic, to love, to uncorrupted love, your true connection to all that is, whatever you want to call it. It's a whole different information or a radio station. It's a whole other, and it's where the power is. And it's the power they've been using to fuel this huge evil. And it's ours to reclaim. We can't be cowards. This isn't like by their intention, where they've turned us into couch potatoes and wimps and wussies and sort of weak, video game players, and everyone else is going to take care of us. And the mind control has just been systematic for decades and decades, so that when this opportunity of all opportunities for all of humanity and maybe the whole omniverse and all these comes, we're so on the wrong radio station that we don't get it. And Laura Lee, it's so brilliant, but the simplicity of, and what you're saying is like, tune out of those radio stations. Stop listening to those. And that also means tune out of the media and tune out of everything that's feeding you fear and telling you that only bad things can happen. We're addicted to it. I get there, I'm home a long day. And then, it's so freaking unbelievable. It's like the worst sci-fi movie ever. But I'm kind of a screenwriter at heart. So I'm like, really? They did what? And then, 3 hours later, I'm like destroyed because I was co-creating that frequency of mind control and all the subliminals. I was letting it in. And we got to stop doing that if we want to be the solution.
Programming
for ourselves. Yeah.
Programming doesn't work on you if you realize you're being programmed.
Exactly.
Whoa.
So that's like the keystone of the whole thing, is you not realizing you're being programmed. And so once you realize, like, this is just programming. When y'all watch the news nowadays, I'm like, what are they going to tell me now? I'm like, oh, there it is. There it is. And so then I can just move on because it doesn't work. And then there are sometimes I see programming and I go, well, this ain't so bad. I like it. Like, not negative, not news programming, but so there are some things that are, they're trying to make you, what I'm saying, buy a happy place or buy a vacation or something. Like, the advertisements on Facebook on the side, if you go search for things, that'll pop up on your feed. You'll see commercials. Like on the internet, if you search for things, those things will pop up. So I go and search for things. After a while, I search for things that I want to look at, like vacations in the Bahamas, bikinis. Like there's a time I went shopping for bikinis, and it was like all girls in bikinis on the side of my feed, because they were trying to sell them to me because they thought I wanted to buy them. But you get what I'm saying? Like, there are times when you can take advantage of the programming that they're trying to give you. That you have but just realize it is for what it is. And like you said, when you start thinking about your feelings in terms of a radio station, a frequency, start thinking about what other people feel too, because you pick up on that. So if everybody in the world at this very moment laughed, you would all feel the laughter, even if you weren't laughing. Even the people in the woods out in Brazil, they would start laughing and they wouldn't know why. But so you can pick up on what's going on in the world, and they're trying to do that. That's how they manipulate things. So, we've all, if you're very in tune with yourself, you've woke up on days and you were just angry for no reason. because that was anger, because there was anger in the world that you didn't know where it was coming from. Like I said, and they've determined that your frequency bounces off the ionosphere, and everybody has access to everybody's frequency around the whole planet because of that phenomenon. Just like a shortwave radio works, we have great distance in just our frequency, the line of sight electrons that are coming out of you bounce off the ionosphere. We have access to what everybody else is feeling, and somewhere right now somebody's winning.
That would
Somewhere
be us.
in the world right now, someone's suffering.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the world right now, someone's falling in love. They're having their first date. Somewhere right now, somebody's dying in their loved one's arms. And all of those frequencies, if you try to, you can magnify through yourself if you tune into them. So if you tune into things that are happening that are great in the frequencies of somebody, you know what I'm saying? We are sharing our experiences with each other. And so when you're in down, you can just say, I want to tune in. There's got to be somebody there, and just search for that feeling. And it's out there. There's a frequency. It's a radio station. It's really what it is. So that's the best thing. If you can manipulate that, it really is a big help.
Tony, when you said that one of the patterns that you're working through is that you didn't value yourself enough, and that you should charge for what you do, were you thinking of that in terms of helping people or counseling people, being just...
Yes. So here's what's happened is, in the beginning, I did one interview every couple weeks, and once a week, twice a week, somebody would contact me and say, man, I remember stuff, help me out. And I'd talk to them. And some people I've become great, fast friends with. And I have great friends that I've been talking to for years now that I met because they saw an interview and they contacted me. And then most people I talk to for a week or two, we'll go back. Some people I just can't get to, because when an interview comes out, I get a spike in people that talk to me. So if I don't do an interview for a long time, it kind of dips down. But then I'll do an interview, and then all of a sudden it's like the next day I got 20 messages and 100 friend requests. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. So I can't get to everybody. And now it's like 10 people a day. Like some days it's like 10 brand new people, and they all of them, like, I look at my messages, and they don't just give me some people don't give me just a, hi, it's nice to meet you, can we talk? Boom, it's a book. This happened when I was a kid, this happened, I saw it, this is what I saw, here's a drawing, and they give me their whole story. And it's like, I'm on the fly in my life, you know what I mean? Like, I have a busy life too. I'm regularly work a 60-hour week. Whoa. And then on the weekends I have, you know what I mean? Like, so for me to deal with people, I've talked to other people that do that help people in courses, and they say it really weeds people out. So, you know what I mean? Like, one time I played phone tag with somebody, and I don't want to put this in a bad light, but I spent a lot of time with them, and when we finally talked, it was just two or three questions, and they were done. But on my end, it was like very inconvenient, So I have to value my time for what it is now, and it's like there's a demand. And so there's a supply and demand of me, and there's only so much of me that can go around. Right. And, I get asked for interviews all the time, and I've missed some. There was a guy that I wanted to talk to. We set a time, and I couldn't make it because my mom visited, and he must have been hurt from that, and I feel really bad about it. So I in order to do that, if I just charge $20 here and there for there's a website, and it works. And if somebody wanted to talk to me and work through it, I mean, it's not like I want to extort them for maximum profit. I just want to weed out people that are not that interested. Do you get what I mean? And prioritize my time for what it is. And because we live in that kind of world, money basically is energy. Your energy transfers into time is energy, which transfers into energy, which transfers into money. So it's just methods of doing that. So, I give a lot of energy to this, and I hadn't meant to, and it's starting to really take a toll on my life, because losing the whole day on the weekend. Sometimes I'm sitting here in my garage from 9 in the morning until 9 at night doing interviews and phone calls and Zooms with people that don't record it and don't put it out, but just people that need help. They just want someone to talk. Because the biggest thing the biggest help for people that have been through this is to talk. For me too, especially in the beginning, I was like, I just want to talk to somebody. I don't want a cure, and I don't want any kind of anything, but you just want to talk to somebody that understands what you're going through. And so it's important, man.
Huge.
And so, you know, like I said, so that's going to happen. There'll be a website, and if nobody buys it, that's fine with me. It's not, you know what I mean? I'm not a pro at this, but what it'll do is it'll weed out, it'll show people it'll prioritize people that need the most help, because they're going to jump on it. If somebody would have charged me $100, if somebody would charge me $300 in the beginning and said, I'm an SSB guy and we can just talk, I would have jumped on it back then, because I was scared for my life. When I started to get these memories back, I was like, whoa. And I knew that if I I had medical insurance, I had everything. I knew that if I went to a real counselor, you know what I mean? If I went to a counseling service went to my doctor and said, look, I need to talk to a counselor because I can remember fighting bugs on Mars. I was in a shooting war on Mars with a giant bug. And I went to a counselor. I knew that immediately I would be medicated.
Absolutely.
And I would not get the right help. And so if somebody would have charged me $300 back then, I would have pounced on that. And I don't want to do that. I'm thinking just $20, $30, whatever. Give me an hour, and then we'll go from there. And if I don't have to charge after that, but I mean, I'm letting somebody else work that out that knows what they're doing. Is what's going on.
You have someone you're working with?
Yes. So what I mean is there's a need, there's a demand, and so it's if I can help people doing that, and you know what, I also could use the money.
Well, right. And like you said, there's only one of you to go around. You know, if you could, replicate yourself, that would be fine, but you can't right now. So
that's the problem right now, is that it seems like my story has got out into enough people to where it's beyond what I can keep up with at this point with the public. I cannot keep up with everybody. And there for a long time I did. And there, in the beginning, the first 3 years I worked at home. So I was always on the computer all day long at home. And so I could just boom, 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 get back. And now I work in the field. And so I'm not online. I've got my phone, and my phone is not a great place to write somebody a full proper response for a lot of things. Some people, you give them a short response, it's really improper. And especially when you think about some of these events that you talk about, they go, yes, no, it's your soul. You know what I mean? Like, what do you get out of that? So it's like, to write a proper response, I need to be sitting at a desk, at a computer, possibly in a phone call situation like this. So yeah, that'll probably happen.
I hope so, because it's part of, and it's a learning curve, but this is the direction you're going, and you have to be compensated, and you have a life too. You can't get rid of your life because you're doing this, because you've got a wife and kids, they need you. So I just support what you're doing. Get that website up, and we'll do whatever we can to support whatever it is you're doing.
I want to say another thing that's coming along. It's been hard to do, is the book. And I want to basically give it away, but everybody's telling me, no, you need to charge better for this. Is your book, and it's worth it. And yes. But I want to say that it's really coming along, and it's going to be very nice to say to people, like, look, it's in my book. Exactly. It's going to solve a lot, I think, because there's a lot more detail in it than I could possibly give out in an interview. You just cannot give out in an interview those kind of a one-sided story. In an interview, there's always both people. Like, there's your side and your questions, and so the story kind of flows in that between two people. In the book, it's one-sided. It's just my story. So I think that's going to be anybody that's been interested in the subject. I think it's going to be valuable to them.
Very good. I do too. Well, you keep us posted on that, because we will help you sell it and make sure that you don't sell yourself short when you sell it.
You two have been a lot of fun. I really like this.
Well,
I really enjoyed myself here. You guys, and you know what? You guys kind of gave me some ego. You said, called me a hero. And so, you know what I mean? That was kind of like good for my ego and stuff. But thank you for that. But I really, other than that, you made this really easy. So thank you.
We wouldn't say that if we didn't believe it. So, it's not like we're trying to smooch it. It was authentic. So anyway, Tony, you have an awesome day, and keep up the good work. And if there's anything that we can do to support you, let us know. And anybody out there that needs support on this, we've got some methods that will help. So anyway, I will let go.
So go to risemultiversity.org. Laura Lee's a mentor. Sienna Lee's a mentor. Who knows? Maybe Tony will be. We'll see what's.
Maybe Tony will be one.
risemultiversity.org. We got a shop. We got Laura Lee just did a 6-part course, like you said. I finally got the book out. It was her life work. 6 classes, the Knights training that give huge keys and processes, and then and that's all, and it's super cheap. 6 podcasts for $125 or something like that, and she just got that up 2 weeks ago, and it's awesome. So because it's true that these topics, although we're laughing, and it's they are huge, they are deep, they are complex. This has been decades and decades of research with everybody here working their off to, and we still are learning things every day. So we'll do what we can to
as
get
more and more people learn about these subjects, more and more people are going to need this, because if you experienced anything like this, then this specialized forms of help, like I said, just being able to talk to somebody that understands what you're talking about, I mean, is invaluable. And that's really the biggest thing you need to get over any of it. Talking about it, really, there was a point at which I did interviews and I talked to people where I thought, man, this is my therapy. This is what's helping, talking to somebody and dealing with somebody that knows what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And somebody that's coming from authenticity, from love, from uncorrupted love, as best that we can, because love is the healer. At the end of the day, we have a lot of really cool techniques. They work great. But what filters through is that frequency of love. And it gives that permission, because when you've been that traumatized and that scattered, you're so tight, you're so armored, you're so untrusting, you've been so done in so many ways that you need somebody that you can build some trust with, or you just don't feel safe enough to open to find out what's going on. So, and that's really hard, because the professional world tells you you're not supposed to love your clients, which is ridiculous. I mean, you can't love them in some funky, perverted, distorted way, or what most of the world calls love. Yeah, that doesn't work. But there's got to be that sincere, pure invitation that it's safe.
Tony has, like what Tony has.
Yeah.
So, okay, I got to tell you, my computer's doing weird things. My mouse is going all over the place. I've got.
All right, we done it. All right, AI's not that happy.
That's how they do.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Okay.